Okay, think about this for a second. What if a military manual written 2,500 years ago is actually the ultimate blueprint for winning at, well, everything? I'm not just talking about the battlefield. I'm talking about your career, your personal goals, your life. We're about to dive into Sun Tzu's The Art of War and see how these ancient rules can give you a serious edge today. Right off the bat, Sun Tzu hits us with this radical idea. See, he wasn't just a general, he was a master psychologist. He understood that the biggest wins don't come from brute force, they're won inside the mind. It's all about outthinking, not overpowering the challenges in front of you. And that is the real game changer here. Think about it. Launching a new project, negotiating a raise, even competing in sports, the exact same rules apply. So this isn't some dusty history lesson. This is your new playbook for hitting your goals with absolute precision. So where does this all begin? Not on some external battlefield, but on an internal one. Yeah, the one inside your own head. Sun Tzu's very first lesson is that every single victory is an inside job. It all starts with knowing yourself. This is the absolute core of his whole philosophy. Know your enemy and know yourself, and you need not fear the result of 100 battles. What that really means is you have to be brutally honest about your own strengths and, more importantly, your weaknesses. And at the same time, you've got to understand your opponent, whether that's a competitor at work or your own self-doubt, so well that you can see their next move coming. That way you'll never be caught off guard. So to build that kind of knowledge, Sun Tzu gives us 5 pillars of strategy. You can think of this like your pre-flight checklist before making any big move. You've got to consider every single one: your mission, the overall environment, the specific situation, your leadership, and your team's discipline. Let's just zoom in on that first pillar for a second: moral law. Now, this isn't about being good or bad. It's about creating absolute, unshakable unity. It's that moment when a team believes in the mission so much they are in perfect sync with their leader. That kind of trust, it makes a group practically unstoppable. So how do you actually achieve that kind of unity? Well, you can't force it. True leadership is about inspiration. It's about proving your vision through what you do, not just what you say. Your actions have to speak way louder than your words. All right, so you've mastered yourself, you've united your team, but what about your opponent? Lesson 2 is where the real mind games begin. This is all about mastering perception. It's about gaining that psychological edge. Now, this is probably Sun Tzu's most famous and, let's be honest, most controversial line. But deception here isn't about telling lies. It's about controlling the story. The second you show your hand and reveal your true plan, you lose your advantage. The best strategists are always one step ahead, shaping what their opponent thinks is happening. And this is exactly how you do it. You manipulate perception to misdirect your opponent. If you make them think you're vulnerable, they might get greedy and overextend themselves, creating the perfect opening for you. If you make them think you're invincible, they might hesitate, and that hesitation buys you crucial time. You control the game because you control what they see. But listen, a clever strategy is totally useless without discipline, and Sun Tzu had a pretty intense way of proving this. A king once challenged him to prove his methods could work on anyone. The test? Train the king's 180 concubines to be soldiers. He gave them a simple order: turn right. They just laughed. He calmly explained the order again. They laughed again. The whole thing was a disaster. And what happened next was critical. Sun Tzu said, "If commands are not clear, it is the general's fault." Fair enough. He had been perfectly clear. But, he continued, if commands are clear and are not obeyed, then the fault lies with the officers. And just like that, even though the king was protesting, he had the 2 women leading the groups executed on the spot. The result? The very next command, the women executed the drill with flawless, terrifying precision. It's a brutal story for sure, but the lesson is powerful. For any strategy to actually work, accountability is not optional. There have to be real consequences when the plan is ignored. So, you've mastered yourself. You have a disciplined team. But we all know plans rarely survive contact with reality, right? What happens when everything just descends into chaos? Well, Sun Tzu's final lesson is maybe his most profound. Don't just survive chaos, master it. This is such a huge mindset shift. Most people see chaos and they freeze up. They see a threat. But the master strategist, They see an opening. Because when all the old rules and patterns break down, that's when new opportunities are born. While everyone else is panicking, the calm, strategic mind can find its greatest victory. So how do you seize that opportunity? By being relentlessly adaptable. The tactic that won for you yesterday could be the very thing that makes you lose today. Real wisdom is knowing which battles are worth fighting and which ones you should just walk away from. And when you see that opening, you have to strike decisively. Momentum is everything. This actually connects right back to one of those 5 pillars, heaven. Now for Sun Tzu, heaven wasn't some spiritual place. It was everything you cannot control. The economy, shifts in the market, public opinion, you name it. A master strategist doesn't fight these forces. They adapt to them, they flow with them, and they find a way to turn the uncontrollable to their advantage. So, after 2,500 years, how do you take all this and apply it to your battlefield? It really all boils down to a powerful personal toolkit for navigating this crazy modern world. Here it is, your personal art of war. First, win the inner victory. Master yourself before you try to master anything else. Second, use invisible strategy. The goal is to outthink, not overpower. And third, master the chaos. See the opportunity where everyone else only sees problems. And that brings us full circle, right back to where we started. The ultimate goal isn't conflict. It's achieving your objective so skillfully, so strategically, that the battle is already won before it even begins. That is the true art of war, and it's a masterpiece you can start applying to every single part of your life.